first of all, I wanted to tell you that the whole point of today's workshop is not necessarily to teach you how to cite in the MLA style. The purpose of today's workshop is basically to introduce you to sort of the broader principles guiding the whole concept of academic honesty, academic integrity, ethical use of sources, that sort of thing. So basically, as far as I can tell, you guys are in the middle of writing your second FYS assignment. And that particular assignment is sort of based very closely tied to your readings. You have to use specific wordings, specific pieces of language from your readings. And how do we use those pieces of language, right? How do we insert them in our writing? And how do we make it clear when we use other people's writing and when we are expressing our own thoughts in our own words? That's what we are going to really be looking at today. So let me start sharing my screen. And so can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so let's look at this. So I know you guys have been hearing the word plagiarism. Plagiarism is bad. The most important thing is not to plagiarize, do anything in your power to avoid plagiarism. So by now you probably heard enough about it, but are not 100% sure how to avoid it, right? So let's talk about what it is, right? If we are told to avoid doing something, we have to at least know what it is. So that's what plagiarism is. It is copying another person's words or ideas and without saying where you got them from. So there are two components here. In order for it to be plagiarism, there has to be a copying of somebody's words or ideas, and the writer doesn't tell us where they got them from. Okay, it's okay to copy somebody's words or ideas. We cannot possibly do any sort of academic writing if we do not use outside sources, right? But at all times, we should tell our readers where we got that information from. Okay, I hope we are clear on that, right? It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use other people's words or ideas. It just means you should use them and not tell them where you got them from. Because if you don't tell your readers where you got them from, then people are going to be automatically assuming that they're yours, or you are trying to pass them off as yours. Okay, and that's what plagiarism is. So there are really two types of plagiarism. There is intentional and unintentional plagiarism. Intentional is basically when you know that you are plagiarizing. Okay, for example, taking a book from the library and copying information from there, or downloading a paper from one of the sites that offer papers from for sale. Another type of plagiarism is, and you might be surprised to find that out, is handing in another person's paper. So if somebody wrote the paper for you and it's not your paper, but you are passing it off as yours, it is still plagiarism, even if that is that other person's original work. Okay, and finally, the most common type of plagiarism that we see these days is, because of the internet, is cutting and pasting sections from usually internet sources to create a paper. Okay, so, and then there is unintentional plagiarism, when you are not aware that you are plagiarizing, but you're plagiarizing anyway. One is when you omit a citation, which means you put in a citation and you forget to cite it. You forget to put the quotation marks around it, okay? Or you cite incorrectly. Okay, maybe you did not put the person's name there or something of that kind. That is also unintentional plagiarism. Maybe you were completely planning it, but you spaced it. It happens. So paraphrasing incorrectly. We're going to get to the issue of paraphrasing in just a couple of minutes. Just wanted to let you know that an incorrect paraphrase might also be considered plagiarism. And third is, it's pure, it's purely technical, but it also happens when the quotation is long and you put the quotation marks not around the whole quotation, but only around the part of the quotation. So the first half of the quotation remains uncited. And so because of that, that the first part of that quotation is considered to have been plagiarized. So these are small matters, these are technical matters, but they're very important. So, and just and I'm letting you know beforehand that most of this workshop is based on a wonderful, wonderful text called Source Work: Academic Writing from Sources by Nancy Dollahide and Julie Hahn. We have a copy of it in the library. I think we should have more copies of it in the library because it's a highly useful book. It's useful not only for freshmen, it's useful for graduate students, for thesis writers. So that's a kind of book that you might want to turn to throughout your academic career. So let's move on. Okay, so there are certain things that do not have to be cited. These exceptions to citation to this citation citation rules are called common knowledge. So common knowledge is something that everybody knows. Okay, so for instance, facts that everyone knows, such as Earth revolves around the sun, that is definitely not something that needs to be cited, right? It is a belief that is widely shared by everyone, right? Also, facts that are very easily verified, and therefore we don't need to put put the quotations around them or parentheses or anything of that nature. Like the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Well, yeah, it's quite easy to look it up. Common expressions or cliches, because they have been part of our language for such a long time that nobody really knows where they are from anymore. So expressions like time flies, that you don't have to cite either, right? It is common knowledge. It falls under common knowledge. All right. Okay. I will stop for a second now, and I will ask you briefly, guys, if you guys are processing all this, or do I need to backtrack at any point? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so far. Okay, I'm not going too fast. Good to know. All right. So now let's talk about the idea of paraphrasing. And you probably heard the word paraphrase. I will explain to you a little bit what paraphrasing is and isn't. Okay, first of all, paraphrasing is, when do we paraphrase? Okay, we paraphrase when we take the idea from an outside source and we express it in our own words because we want to use this idea, right? But we can't, we can't put quotation marks around everything. We can't put direct quotes in, throughout our paper, right? Otherwise, our paper is just going to consist of quotes, right? At some point, it becomes too much. So, and maybe you don't necessarily want the exact words, you just want the idea. So when you don't want the exact words, right, but you want the idea, that's when you do paraphrase. You take the idea, you put it in your own words, and that becomes a paraphrase. Okay. So for instance, you guys read Analects, right? You read Confucius Analects. And there was this idea of mandate of heaven, right? That a mandate of heaven can be lost by the ruler. And this is an idea that belongs to Confucius, right? But this is an idea that you can express in your own words. But as long as you tell me or tell whoever is reading that paper that that idea came from Confucius, then it's okay, right? So paraphrasing means, like I said, expressing an idea in your own words. So it's not changing the sentence structure, because sometimes what people do, they take a sentence and they sort of just flip around two parts of the sentence and they call it a paraphrase. It's not a paraphrase if it's so close to the original source. It's also instead of Confucius, you say he, right? Or instead of the ruler, you say he, it doesn't make it a paraphrase. Okay, if you just substitute pronouns, right? And also if instead of the ruler, you say king, just replacing a couple of words using a thesaurus, it's not paraphrasing either, because it's still too close to the original source. It cannot be considered your own words. So it has to be, paraphrase has to be original enough to be considered your own writing. Okay, so how do we make sure that it is considered your own writing? It's very simple, and it's difficult at the same time. It has to go through your mind. You have to internalize the idea, which means you have to understand it and then express it in your own words. So first it goes through your brain and out your mouth. Okay, not just from the book to your paper. It has to stop over at the brain. Okay. Another very important point with paraphrasing is that just because you expressed it in your own words, it doesn't become your idea. Okay. You have to make sure to give credit to the original writer. So if you take this idea from Confucius and express it in your own words, it is still his idea, and you still have to say that you got it from Confucius or Marcus Aurelius or whoever it is. Okay, are we very clear on that, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Good. All right. Very, very important. Okay. It's probably one of the most important things we're going to mention today, right? So, and paraphrasing is, of course, it's a skill that you learn like any other. It's not, it's a skill, so it's going to require a little bit of work, but it's not it's not nuclear science. We can learn it. Okay, so let me show you a few techniques for how you can train yourself to paraphrase correctly. So let's look at this text. Okay, I will show you some examples of incorrect paraphrasing and correct paraphrasing, and we're going to see what makes a good paraphrase. So let me read this passage for you. It's a little complex, but you don't have to understand it fully. You just have to get the gist. So, and this comes from this resource, the Muhlenberg College Psychology Department. They put together this really nice example of correct and incorrect paraphrasing. So, original passage. Long-term memory, that immensely complex storehouse, has also been most extensively studied with the use of verbal materials, usually presented in the form of long lists. As we shall see, this approach has resulted in some extremely important findings, but it has also been a bit misleading. After all, remembering long lists of words is somewhat different from remembering a conversation, a recipe, or the plot of a movie. Klatsky, 1975, page 17. Okay, that's the original passage. Let's look at the paraphrase. Long-term memory is a complex storehouse that has been studied extensively using verbal materials presented in the form of long lists. While this approach has resulted in some important findings, it has been misleading. Remembering lists is not like remembering a discussion or a movie. So, and what do you think makes it an incorrect paraphrase?
Just change the order of words and that's all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just a little bit shorter than the original, right? So basically it's so close to the original that we can't really understand, we can't even get the idea that the writer understood this idea, right? Maybe they just cut out some words from the original. That's good, that's a very good observation. There is a second issue which is much bigger than that.
There is no page number in the quotes and the brackets.
Exactly. There is no.
So no quotation mark.
Well,
Still other words, yeah.
Yeah, the main idea is that, yes, that the person didn't tell us where they got it from. So not only are they taking other people's writing, right? They are not telling us where they got this from, okay? Which means that this person did not just screw up, they screwed up twice, okay? So let's look at let's look at the better attempt at paraphrasing. So it's the same original passage. Let's look at the paraphrase. Recall of long word lists is how long-term memory typically studied. Although much can be learned through this method, the vast diversity of what human beings commit to memory suggests this approach may have its limits. Klatsky, 1975, page 17. Okay. So, what observations can we make about this paraphrase? Don't be shy, ladies and gentlemen.
Quotation marks.
Say it again.
Quotation marks.
Well, there are no quotation marks. There is a citation. Quotation marks are these things.
Oh, yeah, citation marks.
Yeah, it's a citation. There is a citation. There is a citation means that the person told us where they got it from. Yes, there is a citation. The person cited their source. They said Klatsky, 1975, page 17, right? They cited, they told us where they got it from. Okay, very good. Apart from that, what other observation can we make about the quality of writing? What can we tell about the style?
It is the same idea, but summarized, more shorter, and summarize the whole idea of the previous passage.
Yes, and it's very good, and also it's summarized in an original way, right? It doesn't sound like the original, right? But the idea is absolutely the same, yes. Okay, so we can tell that the writer understood the idea first before committing it to paper, right? That it went through the brain, right? And not just from the original source straight to paper. Okay, that's very important. So teach yourself to first understand the idea before paraphrasing it. Okay, it has to, that stop that at the brain is very, very important. Okay, so now now that you understand the difference between a good paraphrase and a bad paraphrase, then let's look at some paraphrasing techniques. And so can you guys see this?
Yes.
No,
Really?
it's blank.
Because I can't. Okay, so it says criteria for a good paraphrase. So let's look at what makes a good paraphrase. A good paraphrase has the same meaning as the original, okay? Which means it includes all the main ideas and does not include any new ideas from you, okay? The new ideas from you are very good, just not in a paraphrase, okay? If you're taking somebody's idea, don't change it, okay? So, secondly, like I said, it has to be different enough from the original to be considered your own writing. It uses just a few words from the original source, and the grammar and vocabulary have to be as different as possible. And three is that it refers to, or like I said, it cites the original source, which means it includes the name and the author and or the name of the source. Okay, very important. So all those three things make a paraphrase. So let's move on to the techniques. So the first technique, and it's very simple and it's extremely effective, it's called tell a friend method. Okay, so you read the original, then you cover it up, right? So you're not looking at it anymore, you're turning away, okay? And then you talk to a friend, or you can talk to an imaginary friend, that's fine, and try to explain that idea to them. So let's look at this phrase, don't cry over spilled milk. Okay, so if I turn away from it and I'm not looking at it anymore, I can say, okay, don't cry over spilled milk means you shouldn't get upset about something that is already done. Okay, and then woohoo, I produced this original expression of that idea. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
No.
Okay. All right. So it works very well with shorter ideas. Okay. Let's have a little exercise, ladies and gentlemen. We're just going to spend a whole of 30 seconds on it. So let's look at this expression. All that glitters is not gold. So look at it for a few seconds. All that glitters is not gold. Then kind of turn away from your screens and think about how you would say it to somebody else. Okay, I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about how you would say it to somebody else. Okay, all right. Could we possibly have a volunteer or two to tell us how they would paraphrase that saying? You can just open up your mic and tell us.
Maybe not everything that grabs your attention actually deserves it.
Not everything that I'm sorry.
Not everything that grabs your attention might actually deserve it.
Interesting. Okay, that's an interesting. Okay, somebody else.
Not everything what shine
Mm-hmm.
is expensive.
Not everything that shines is expensive. Very good. Okay.
Not to trust everything you see.
Don't trust everything you see. Okay. All right. Okay. So all three were absolutely original. That is really, really good. Okay. The the trick is to pick the one that, of course, that expresses the meaning, the idea most closely. Okay, because remember, the idea still has to be the idea still has to be the same one as in the original piece. Okay, so for longer pieces, it's a little bit more difficult, but definitely there are techniques for that. The second one is called chunking methods. I don't know if you guys know the word chunk. A chunk means a piece, right? And so basically a chunking method is you look at the passage, if it's a longer passage, several times, and understand the basic, and work on understanding the ideas in that passage. Then you divide up that passage, okay? And then explain each piece, each chunk, using your own words. And then you just sort of combine them into your paraphrase. Let me show you an example. So let's look at this original piece of writing. There is an element of sacrifice and obligation. Women are expected to make many things secondary once their husband comes along, to devote their energies to him and his house and the building of another family unit. And that comes from WARC Penny. What does life tell us about love? So it's kind of a longer piece. So it's a little bit difficult to just turn away and to be able to paraphrase it on the fly. So let's divide it into pieces and paraphrase each piece. So as you can see, it was, here it was divided into 3 different pieces. So there is an element of sacrifice and obligation. Women are expected to make many things secondary. And basically the idea of that first chunk is that women must give up time and energy that they previously had for themselves. Once the husband comes along, after they get married, and to devote their energies to him and his house and the building of another family unit is, women are expected to focus on taking care of their husband, home, and children. Okay, so you separately paraphrased each piece, okay, and then you pull it together. After they get married, women must give up time and energy for themselves because they're expected to focus on taking care of their husband, home, and children. WARC 2003. So, and then you have a beautiful paraphrase which conveys very precisely the meaning of the original, but it's not, but it is your own original writing. So, and that is what makes a paraphrase. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to attract your attention to the fact that there are no quotation marks around the paraphrase. Why is that? Why do we not put quotation marks around the paraphrase?
Because it's not exactly the voice of the author.
Right. We use quotation marks when we take the words from somebody else, right? When we take just the idea, we don't need the quotation marks. We need quotation marks for other people's writing. Okay, this is your own writing. The idea is borrowed from somebody else, but the writing is yours. Therefore, you don't need to put quotation marks. Okay, but when you are taking the words from somebody, then make sure to put the quotation marks. If you don't put them, then that's plagiarism. Okay. So I'll show you one other example. Okay, just so you know, to drive this whole thing home. So as the chain McDonald's expanded nationwide in the mid-60s, it sought to cut labor costs, reduce the number of suppliers, and ensure that its fries tasted the same in every restaurant. Okay, so as McDonald's expanded nationwide in the mid-60s, how can we paraphrase that? Think about it. It's okay, you know, to volunteer ideas. We're not playing for money here.
McDonald's become national knowledge in the middle of 60s.
Very good, very good. It sought to cut labor costs. That's a little bit difficult. Maybe BA majors can help a little bit here. BA or economics majors.
To reduce the number of those who sell, like decrease the number of those who sell.
Not necessarily decrease the number of people, right? They just wanted to spend less money on those people. But yeah, basically, yes, the idea, right?
I just economically interpreted it. Yeah, I forgot about the context.
All right. Okay, good. Reduce the number of suppliers. Like limit the number of companies that they were dealing with, for instance. Okay, and ensure that its fries tasted the same in every restaurant. Anybody? Come on, guys, we all eat fries. Something like, and make sure that
and make sure that the product is not differing from another place.
Yes, quite good, very nice. Okay, so we have a paraphrase. Schlosser writes that while McDonald's spread all over the country during the 1960s, the company tried to spend less on its workers, get its supplies from fewer sources, and guarantee that its French fries always tasted the same. So we have the name of the author, Schlosser. We have the year that his book was published. So we know that the idea comes from Schlosser, but the writing is original. So therefore, no quotation marks. Okay, that's what a paraphrase makes. Okay, so now let's talk about in-text citations, right? So when you are writing an essay and you are putting somebody's idea or somebody's words in your essay, right? How to do that? Like this. Okay, so this actually comes from a real honest-to-God first-year seminar essay from a few years ago from a student of mine who was kind enough to let me use her essay. So here she takes a direct quote, right? here it says, in Arendt's work, Personal Responsibility Under Dictatorship, Arendt states that evil cannot be justified despite the different methods of justification. For example, Eichmann justified himself with the cog theory, stating that he was nearly a small cog who was playing just his own role in a huge system. Eichmann claimed, why did I do it? If the defendant answered, it was not I as a person who did it. I had neither the will nor the power to do anything out of my own initiative. I was a mere cog, expendable. Everybody in my place would have done it. That I stand before this tribunal is an accident. So so she incorporated this quote into her essay, right? And she told us, and in parentheses, right? So these little round things in parentheses, she told us where she got this idea, where she got this citation from. So every time you use a paraphrase or you use a direct, quotation in your paper, you put in parentheses the information about where you got this from. Okay, clear?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, important point. Okay, so information that you put in parentheses in text, we call it an in-text citation because it's within the text of your essay. Like I said, we call them in-text citations, but that information is usually quite basic. Okay, it is just the author's last name and the page number, sometimes depending on the citation style, the year of publication. Okay, but but also you need to give your reader a more complete information about that source, right? Like which book, what we know the author and we know the page, right? But I mean, Hannah Arendt wrote so many books. How would I know where you got this quotation from? Any ideas?
Bibliography?
Yes, there is this is what we call a reference list, or so at the end, you attach a separate sheet with a complete list of sources that you used. Okay, and that information gives a more complete information about each source, right? It tells us the author's name, it tells us the book name, it tells us the publisher, the year of publication, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so both are necessary, right? The in-text citation is there to give us basic information about, that it's somebody else's idea, that you got it off this writer from this page, but the complete information about the source has to go in the reference list. Okay, it's for your reader's convenience, right? Because actually it's kind of funny, but students have been known to forge sources, right? They take, particularly fun and inventive students sometimes, they put in a quotation which they make up, and so on and so forth. If somebody wants to chase down that reference, that's why they have a reference list at the end, which is sometimes called bibliography, sometimes called reference list, a list of references, sometimes it's called works cited, depending on the citation style, but the rules are basically the same. Basic information in parentheses in the body of the text, and the complete information at the end on a separate sheet at the end of your paper. Clear?
Yes.
Good. All right. Okay. How to choose a citation style, right? There are quite a few citation styles. The citation style depends basically on your academic discipline and on your professor's preference. Okay. APA is used in social sciences, basically. So psychology, education, anthropology, I'm pretty sure, most social sciences disciplines use, sociology, they use APA. MLA is used by the humanities, and as far as I can tell, in the first year seminar, you will be using MLA. But when you start writing papers for your own discipline, for your own major, your citation style might be different. Okay, the differences are pretty technical, Okay, I wouldn't get all worked up about it. But please ask your professor what citation style they want. Okay, and stick to that for the duration of the course. Okay, and I will show you where to find the guide to all the citation styles on the work page at the end of this workshop. Okay, so when you reference from the books MLA style, and like I said, guys, okay, I'm not here to teach you the MLA style, okay, and I don't expect you to remember like every comma and every instance when you're supposed to italicize something. That's not the point of this workshop, okay? The point of this workshop is just, like I said, give you kind of a broad information about, you know, what correct citation is, what the ethics of citation is. Okay, so when you have an in-text citation, so this is a piece from an essay. Romantic poetry is characterized by the, and then there is a quote, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Wordsworth, 263. So spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings is a quotation, direct quotation from Wordsworth, okay? And it comes from the page 263 of whatever book the author used, okay? Clear?
Yes.
Yes. And the reference list, the works cited, as it's called in MLA, gives us complete information about this book. Wordsworth, comma, William, Lyrical Ballads, London, Oxford, UP, 1967 print. Okay, so last name, first name, title of book, italicized, city of publication, publisher, publication date. So that's basically all you have to know, right? You have to remember that there have to be in-text citation, anti-citations, and there has to be a reference list at the end. Like I said, everything else is just pure technique, which is, you know, and plenty of sources about sources on that on the internet. Okay, I don't expect you to remember this perfectly, right? I just expect you to remember the basic principles. So, and this wonderful, wonderful resource, Purdue Online Writing Lab, also known as OWL, it will explain to you everything that you need to know about citing in any style under the sun. Okay, if you want to reference something from the web, once again, this is an in-text citation. Our online film critic stated that Fitzcarraldo, quotation, now direct quotation, has become notorious for its near failure and many obstacles. Taylor, this is the author's name, comma, the name of the article. And then the complete, you know, and the complete information about this online article. It comes from the included in the list of sources at the end of your paper. Okay, so, all right. Okay, now let's look at some examples of citations, correct, incorrect. So let's look at this original passage. Infidel, in New York, one who does not believe in the Christian religion, in Constantinople, one who does. Okay, so we take this very funny quote from Ambrose Bierce and see what can be done with it. Incorrect citation. According to Ambrose Bierce in the Devil's Dictionary, an infidel is in New York one who does not believe in the Christian religion, in Constantinople one who does. And at that point, people say, huh, we have the author's name. Why is it incorrect? So I pose that question to you, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we didn't say it was ours, right? We even said that it was Ambrose Bierce. So what's wrong with it?
No quotation mark and no citation.
Yep. The words are exactly from the guy, right? If you take the words exactly from the guy, you have to use what?
Citation marks.
Quotation marks. You have to use quotation marks, right? Okay. Okay. What else is missing here?
Citation.
Specifically. Look.
Yeah, part of the page.
The citation itself, right? So the page number, right? So the quotation marks, right, which mark the direct quote, and the citation, which tells us where this came from. Ambrose Bierce, page 60. So how about this? Another one. Dentist, A prestidigitator, it's like a magician who putting metal in your mouth pulls coins from your pocket. Incorrect citation. A dentist is a prestidigitator who putting metal in your mouth pulls coins from your pocket. We have a citation. Says Beers 24. What's wrong?
Oh,
The structure of the words.
No, the structure is fine. The structure is exactly as Ambrose Bierce put it.
Quotation marks.
Quotation marks, it's a direct quote. It's a direct quote. The words come from the guy. If the words come from the guy and not from you, you need the little marks. See?
Oh,
Okay.
Aha. So as you can see, sometimes plagiarism, the whole idea of plagiarism hinges on very little things like that. And this, by the way, is a very good example of unintentional plagiarism. The person tried very hard to cite, right? But they forgot the quotation marks that come, that have to come with the direct quote. Okay, so highlights. So the summary. Occasionally you will quote directly from a source, but most of the time you should paraphrase what you read. Because a lot of the times, most times what we take is the ideas. When we really, really want that original language, when we want that language directly from the source, right? Then you use direct. Then you use a direct quote. But most of the time, paraphrase is sufficient because most of the time we just want to use the idea, not the words themselves. Okay. A paraphrase does not require quotation marks, and a direct quote does. But, and that's the most important thing in this whole workshop, but it is essential that you cite the work of others, both when you quote directly and paraphrase. And cite means you tell us the source. Okay, in both cases, whether you're paraphrasing, whether you're taking a direct quote, it doesn't matter. It comes from somewhere. Okay, the idea comes from somewhere, or the language, perhaps language itself comes from somebody. Therefore, cite. Okay, tell the reader where it came from. Okay, and a paper, a decent academic paper, includes in-text citations with a brief information about where this comes from, and a more complete information about each source at the end. And like I told you before, common knowledge does not need to be referenced. So cliches, things that everybody knows, things that can be very easily looked up, they do not need to be referenced. Okay, and here we come to the preachy part. Okay, why do we want to avoid plagiarism? Okay, well, the first thing really is that you are essentially bypassing the learning process, right? I mean, I assume that you are at the university to learn, and therefore, if you just skip ahead to getting a ready-made paper someplace, or by getting somebody to do your thinking or your writing for you, essentially you're skipping this opportunity to learn. And also, of course, having plagiarism on your academic record is a very unfortunate thing to have, and that is something that has very long-term effects. There have been scandals when somebody's senior thesis turned out to be plagiarized, and then their professional career was ruined like 30 years later. Obviously, faculty is spending time evaluating other people's work instead of yours. So it is really, not very nice to your faculty. Of course, the person who did that work for you or did that thinking or writing for you, they don't receive the credit. And finally, and that to me personally, that is kind of the biggest reason not to do it is really it's a disrespect towards everybody else who is doing their work honestly. Okay. AUCA has an anti-plagiarism policy. whereby students may be temporarily suspended from the university for a minimum of 1 semester and up to a maximum of 2 semesters. So you might end up losing from 6 to 24 months of your life by committing plagiarism. Okay, so, and therefore, and actually it has been known to happen. I have seen it happen. So therefore we want to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. So here's my, here's that part of the spiel. Okay, any questions or comments before we continue, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, everything was clear.
Sorry,
Yes.
Mariya, could you please share the slides later, because I didn't take notes, and I think some other students as well.
Oh, of course. I mean, this whole thing is being recorded, and I can, and everything is going to be made available to whoever wants it. Okay. So I wanted to show you show you just one more thing before we break up. Okay.
Where you share this slide?
If you want it, like as I said, the whole presentation is being recorded. So, okay, I suppose you guys are familiar with the fact that we have a wonderful in-house tutoring center called Writing and Academic Resource Center, colloquially known as the WARC, or as Russian students call it, WARC, which normally houses a wonderful collection of writing resources. But since the internet today is being difficult, okay, there we are, thank God. Okay, so here you are. Here you can scroll down and you can see resources for students. Okay, and it has all kinds of things if you look there. It talks about the different writing genres, like an argumentative essay, compare-contrast essay, persuasive essay, that sort of thing. It talks about different parts of an essay, how to write an introduction, a conclusion, body paragraph, that sort of thing. When you move on to your own majors, this here is writing in the disciplines. So it'll show you an example of how to write a case study. If you're a BA student, of how to write, and let's say a sociology paper, how to write a psychology paper, that sort of thing. But the part that we are interested in today is sources and citations. So let's click here and see what we get. So here is just a general information about working from sources. These are citation guides, and these are citation generators. In my day and age, ladies and gentlemen, we didn't have that. So we had to remember all those rules of how to cite, where to put the comma, what to italicize, that sort of, that sort of thing. These days, there are all kinds of citation generators like EasyBib or so on, where you just plug in basic information and you choose MLA or APA or Chicago or whatever, and it produces, it generates a citation for you. Really a wonderful, wonderful thing to have. So I suggest that you that you make use of these sources. And of course, you know that we also have wonderful tutors who are formally trained, not only in writing pedagogy, they're also trained in trained by the library in the use of databases and in using citation tools, that sort of thing. So if you are not exactly sure, if you know what you're doing with a citation or with a paraphrase, that sort of thing, they will be very happy to guide you. Okay, all right. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Is there anything that I haven't covered that you would like to know more about? Or maybe I covered it and you didn't get it 100%, please let me know.
30, I sent you in the chat.
Can you please give a website for a thesis writing styles? What do you mean by thesis writing styles? Like how to write a thesis statement, or how to write a senior thesis?
No, styles, you already mentioned EP or for master thesis.
Oh, yeah, it's all on our website. It's not how to write a senior thesis exactly. It is how to write in a particular discipline. Okay, let me show it to you one more time. So, because each discipline is a little bit different, right? You write a BA paper very differently from, you know, what you write from a sociology paper, right? So writing in the disciplines, if you click here, it's all in the WARC resources, right? See applied math, geology, business administration, economics, European studies, international business law, ICP, liberal arts and science, journalism, psychology, social sciences, software engineering. So there are resources on writing for, you know, for like more professional writing, right? Or discipline specific writing for almost every department at the UCA. Okay. So, and you can find it here in, you just go to work.auca.kg, work.auca.kg here. And once you are on our website, you click on resources for students. Okay, great. Is this clear?
Yeah.
All righty. Okay, anything else that I can help you guys with? Yeah?
Yeah, everything was really clear. And thank you so much.
Oh, it was my pleasure entirely. So you are the 40 people that are going to be ahead of everyone else in the first year seminar. So
Yes.
good luck, guys.
Okay.
Thank you for taking the time. And if you have any questions, please, like I said, see one of our writing tutors, or you can write directly to the WARC. We'll do our best to help you out. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
thank you. Goodbye.
Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.